Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we are going to be continuing Dragon Ball World's Strongest. What if Wonder Woman wasn't Dragon Ball? Part 2. But as always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. Also, check out part 1 of this series so that you can be caught up on the official story as we continue. Where we last left off with our series, we started with the introduction into this new world of Dragon Ball. A world where the Amazons exist in this universe, and they live on Earth, with a young Princess Diana, or as she will come to be known as Wonder Woman, makes her way throughout the world on her own adventure. This leads her to meeting Goku for the first time, and the two of them agree to enter into the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament together, where surprisingly enough, Wonder Woman actually ends up winning the tournament, albeit by the skin of her teeth, as she's able to withstand a Kamehameha from Goku, and the two of them fall out of the ring simultaneously, mirroring how Goku lost to Tien in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, only this time he takes the loss to Princess Diana. However, as they go off to celebrate their victory with a nice feast, Goku would return back to the tournament grounds to pick up some of his belongings, where he and his friends discover, unfortunately, the death of Krillin. And unknown to our heroes, the Demon King Piccolo has now returned into the world, and what this means for the fate of everyone on it could be catastrophic. For all this and more, stay tuned as we now continue Dragon Ball World's Strongest. What if Wonder Woman wasn't Dragon Ball? As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As Goku and the others would have arrived back to the tournament grounds, they would be in absolute shock to see what had happened. Krillin, Goku's friend, had been slain, and more important, along with that, the 4-star Dragon Ball that Goku had managed to acquire had been taken. While everyone tried to assess what had happened, they would see the tournament announcer who had been knocked out following the attack. He would explain to them all that a monster of some kind, this being Tambourine, had murdered Krillin, as well as taking a list of all the fighters who had participated in the tournament before flying off. Goku was in a furious rage at the loss of his friend. Who would have done something so terrible? Even Diana could see and feel the anger Goku was giving off, and she'd be lying if she said she didn't feel the same. Although she didn't know Krillin, or even Goku for that matter, nearly as long, it was still something that she detested, a form of injustice, and this for the evil. From what she had known, Krillin was a nice person. He hadn't done anything wrong, and even more so, whoever this monster or whatever it could be, it was something that had to be stopped. Without thinking about it, Goku would summon his flying Nimbus after taking the power pole and storming off with the Dragon Radar, defying the one responsible. While he was going off to leave, Diana would grab her sword as well, before flying off to follow Goku. She promised that she would watch after him, while the others took Krillin's body and stored it away for safety, while they too tried to figure out just what was going on. Even though Master Roshi had tried to order them to stop, he had a bad feeling about all of this. Oolong, in the meanwhile, had found a piece of paper with a familiar symbol nearby. When Roshi saw it, he was absolutely horrified at what he had seen. It was the symbol of the ancient demon known as King Piccolo. Flashbacks started to go through Roshi's mind, remembering when the Demon King had roamed throughout the world, and he remembered the final battle that resulted in his defeat. It was when Roshi was younger. It was actually a time when he had met Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. They had come together to fight against this evil that posed a threat to the entire world. But even back then in their youth, their power paled in comparison to the great monster. It was only thanks to the help of Master Roshi's own sensei, that being Mutaito, who was able to use a special technique to seal away the demon so that he could never escape. It was a technique known as the Evil Containment Wave, a seal that could imprison anyone. He had been trapped inside of an electric rice cooker of all things. Of course, it was supposed to be stored away so that no one could ever get to it. It was thrown deep into the bottom of the ocean. It was impossible to think that anyone could have possibly have found it, let alone released him. Although looking back on it now, it probably wasn't the best of ideas. And if Roshi could feel this, then he knew that the Queen of the Amazons could feel it as well. And she indeed had, as even on Amazon Island, the warriors stopped and paused as they felt a great wave of evil wash over them. Even for an island as peaceful as theirs, they could still sense the evils of the world. But this was far beyond even anything of man. No, this was something greater. Hippolyta looked on concerned. Of course, she had allowed her daughter to go out to the mainland, to explore, to have her excursion, if you will. But of all the things that could have gone wrong, the fact that the Demon King Piccolo had returned. Hippolyta would set off immediately to the mainlands, telling the warriors to stay on guard on the island until she returned with Diana. She would leave off at once, flying at great speed, as fast as her energy could carry her, as she went to go and try to find and make sense of what was going on. In the meanwhile, King Piccolo, who had now used the help of the Pilaf gang, had set of course to finding the Dragon Balls. He was going to do so to restore himself to his former glory, but also he had instructed his offspring, Tambourine, to kill all the living fighters who had participated in the World Martial Arts Tournament, viewing them all as potential threats in the future. Goku and Diana were finally able to track down Tambourine. As they had been able to find them, Goku and Diana both weren't in the best of states, as they were both still a bit weak from their fight in the finals. And Tambourine, who was easily still fresh, could have potentially outmatched them. However, the one thing that they had in their favor was that this was a 2-on-1 fight. Diana, skilled with her blade, was able to strike at the massive warrior, even being able to cut off his arm, while Goku used the power pole to sweep him at the feet. Finally, the two of them would go in for the killing strike. However, they would still be not enough to overcome the monstrous brute. However, they would get help before long, as from out of nowhere, a rather large samurai warrior, at least that's what he called himself, would come out of nowhere and go striking him down. After this had been done, the rather large fellow would introduce himself as Yajirobe, as he tried to make sense of what on earth had been happening. Goku and Diana would explain that this monster, or whoever he was, had somehow killed their friend, and that he had taken their Dragon Ball, which thankfully Goku was able to get back. Yajirobe, of course, had no idea of what was happening. As the dying creature took its final breath, it warned that it would not be in vain, as soon enough, his father, King Piccolo, would come to seek revenge. And sure enough, King Piccolo was able to sense the death of his son Tambourine. Along the way though, the other Z fighters, now having taken Krillin's body and storing it, would try to make sense of what was happening on Roshi's island, when suddenly, a woman dressed in warrior armor would appear. Tien and Yamcha would stand at the ready, Chaozu not too far behind. But Roshi would tell them all to stand down as he walked out. Eh, Hippolyta, is that you? Roshi, my, it seems age has truly caught up with you. Even though you were able to drink from the fountain of youth. Well, it keeps me alive, but it seems as though my looks, well, that's another story. But anyway, I assume you're here because you felt it also? I had been looking for my daughter. Ah, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman? Oh, it's what she called herself in the tournament. I believe her name is Princess Diana, am I right? That is correct. You know her? Oh yes, I met her not too long ago. She and my pupil have been getting along fairly well. Your pupil? Hippolyta looked at him with a side eye. Of course, she knew about Roshi and his rather luxurious tendencies, and while she didn't know the son Goku, she did have her own suspicions. If any student of Roshi's was anything like him, then she didn't want her daughter anywhere near that kind of person. But there were still more pressing matters. The matter of trying to find wherever this King Piccolo was, and hoping to stop him before he could cause any too much damage. They were able to sense his energy well enough, and Roshi believed that now was the time to dust off an old technique. Of course, Hippolyta wondered if he was really capable of using what his master had done all those years ago, using the technique known as the evil containment wave. But still, they figured it was going to be their only choice. In the meantime, sensing what had happened to his son, Piccolo would make his way to where both Diana and where Goku were waiting. They had only had the 4-star ball, but they figured it would work as bait. Yajirobe, not wanting to get in the crossfire, would run off somewhere far enough to hide, but still have a good view of what was to come. As King Piccolo landed from his ship, the older green being would look down at the two young fighters, with a smirk on his face. So, you're the ones who were able to defeat my sons, Tambourine and Cymbal. I must say, I am impressed. You are both rather capable warriors. And if I'm not mistaken, you were both the finalists in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Then that just means once I defeat you, there won't be anyone left in this world who can challenge me. I'll be one step closer to ultimate victory, and I'll be rid of you wretched fighters forever. Goku would simply yell in defiance as he went charging towards King Piccolo. Much to King Piccolo's surprise, Goku was still pretty swift and nimble, and his punches packed a good punch, but still, it wasn't anything that could cause him to have any real trouble. However, as he watched how Diana fought, he was able to see that she was one of them. So, you come from that wretched tribe of Amazons as well. I see. Then that means you must be the best that they have to offer. Don't take us so lightly, monster. My mother is the strongest of us all, and I know she could destroy you with ease. Is that a fact? Well, it seems I'll have to pay her a visit. Both Goku and Diana would charge together. Even with the two of them fighting in a 2-on-1 match, it still did not do them much good against Piccolo, as he was still able to combat them rather easily. The king eventually being able to stop the two of them, beating them to a point where they were near unconscious, almost knocking on death's door. And in the worst matter of states, it seemed as though he had already killed them. As their bodies were left lying in a heap, the king simply smirked, believing that nature was going to take its course and that they could be disposable for nature. As he flew off after taking the 4-star ball, Yajirobe would wait and cower as King Piccolo would continue his conquest. After seeing that the coast was clear, he ran over to the 2 young fighters. "Hey, you guys really dead?" As he listened for a heartbeat, he was able to see that they were in fact still alive, albeit barely. He grabbed the 2 young fighters and threw them on his shoulders, knowing that the only one who could help them now was his good friend Korn, and that meant they were going to have to take a trip to Korn's tower. Although what he did leave behind was the Dragon Radar. Not too long after, both Roshi and Hippolyta would find where the battle had taken place, although they couldn't find the kids anywhere. The only thing they could find was the Dragon Radar. Thankfully though, they were able to use it to find where the other Dragon Balls had been taken. They were able to get their hands on the 3-star ball, however it seemed that King Piccolo had managed to acquire the others. For now, while finding the children was of the utmost concern, defeating King Piccolo was still going to be a priority for them as well. Both Hippolyta and Roshi would reconvene with the others, explaining what they were going to do. Roshi and Hippolyta would confront the Mad King, and in doing so, they would attempt to end his reign of terror before it could begin. While the others in the meantime would be given the radar, they would have to hold down the fort, as they would potentially be Earth's last hope. Roshi, Hippolyta, Tien, and Chaozu would all go as they attempted to face against the king. Before long, they would find an open clearing. As they had kept their 1 Dragon Ball, they knew that it wouldn't be long before Roshi would have to come to a certain decision. A decision to fight or to use the evil containment wave. Even though he were a lot older than his own master when he attempted to use it, it was still going to be their best option for victory. Before long, King Piccolo would have arrived. Seeing the 2 fighters, he was able to see that Hippolyta hadn't really aged all that much since the last time he'd seen her, while Roshi, it looked like he had seen better years. "Ah, you 2. It has been some time since we last saw one another. It seems that of the 3, time has been the most pleasing to you, goddess. Save your pleasantries, demon. You will find no sympathy from me. This will serve as your final grave. Yes, one way or another, King Piccolo. Your time will come to an end, and it will be here and now." Both Roshi, Hippolyta would face off against the king, the 2 fighting very similarly to how their students had fought. "So I see, those little brats were trained by you 2. Little brats? Are you talking about Diana? Goku? What did you do to them?" "Oh, don't worry. You'll know soon enough, as you're beginning to join them." Hippolyta would be overcome with rage at the thought of losing her daughter, and Roshi as well, a sense of anger welling inside of him. As the 2 fought and pushed the Demon King even farther than before, it seemed as though they might be able to outright kill him this time around, although now that was not going to be the case, as the king showed off his massive power, blowing the 2 of them off with ease. As Hippolyta had tried to take him out with a sword before she could have a chance to, King Piccolo would move it from her hands. She attempted to hold him in place, albeit not doing much of a good job, while Roshi attempted to use the evil containment wave. Hippolyta had already decided, if worse came to worse, she would hold the Demon King long enough and they could both be sealed inside of the jar. And if they could always use the Dragon Balls to wish her out and free her. This was going to be their gamble, but it was one that would not pay off. As Roshi attempted to use the evil containment wave, as Hippolyta held the demon in place, he would manage to break free just enough, throwing off their trajectory, causing them to miss, and for Roshi to collapse, his life having been extinguished from using the technique. And even more so, Hippolyta was now left on her own. She would attempt to fight to her last strength. However, the Demon King would eventually overpower her as he took his fist and he stabbed her through the chest, piercing through her heart and killing her. The remnants of his past now seemingly gone. With Gao gathering the Dragon Balls, the King Piccolo would use them to summon Shenron before making his wish, wishing to have his youth once again, to be restored to his height of power. After he had done so, and disposing of Chaozu as well, who had attempted to stop him from making his wish, he would look to make sure that his reign could never be undone. The moment his youth was granted to him, he would shoot out a repulsing mouth beam, and in doing so, he would murder Shenron, causing the Dragon Balls to disappear and be turned into stone. Now that they could never be used against him, the Demon King Piccolo was now fully revived and ready to restart his reign of darkness. In the meantime, Yajirobe would carry both Goku and Diana up to Korin's tower. Upon doing so, they would meet with Korin the cat, who would help restore the two fighters by giving them both Senzu beans. Once they had both eaten the beans, the two of them would feel they were completely restored, allowing them to reach back to their full strength. However though, their strength and power were not going to be enough in order to win. If they were going to stand a chance against the Demon King Piccolo, then they were going to have to go and drink the Ultra Divine Water, a magical water that could help draw out the drinker's potential if they were able to survive the poisonous and painful after effects that came with taking just a sip of its water. Yajirobe was a bit concerned by this after all. Even though he did want to help, the idea of being poisoned and potentially dying didn't really suit him. However, for both Goku and Diana, they didn't see any problems with taking the chance. After all, they only had two choices. Either they did this, or everyone died. It was that simple. Both Goku and Diana would drink from the Ultra Divine Water. Yajirobe would have to watch over them, as they would have to endure a night of suffering and pain caused by drinking it. The two of them in a never-ending state of hallucinations and nightmares, as they had to overcome the darkness that welled within them. Yajirobe, he had only suffered for a few moments because he took one drop of the water, and he knew he had no intentions on going any further. Because of this, the only thing he could do was wait, as the two of them would have to overcome their painful excursion. In the meantime, Tien figured he was the only one left who could fight. He had attempted to master using the evil containment wave, and he figured if anyone was going to stand a chance of sealing away the Demon King Piccolo, then it would be him. He had attempted to go and to face off against King Piccolo. However, the king, not wanting to waste his time with such a lower fighter, would instead summon his offspring, Drum, a large, creature-like warrior who would be fighting on his behalf. While Tien was able to perform admirably against him, Drum, although being fatter, was still stronger and easily able to defeat Tien, who had been desperate. He tried to use the evil containment wave right then and there, but Drum was able to jump through and catch him off guard, and worst of all, the rice cooker would be destroyed. Tien not having any choice in the matter, there wasn't much that he could do. He didn't have a way to seal him, and he didn't have a way of getting stronger. He desperately tried to fight against Drum, although in the end, it really wouldn't have made much of a difference. Just as it seemed as though his life was about to be ended right then and there, two flying forces would go charging towards Drum, kicking him in the gut and knocking him to the ground. Standing tall would be both Diana as well as Goku, the two with a serious expression on their face. "So, you managed to survive. Well, no matter. Your masters paid me a visit also, but it seems as though they were not able to survive." Hearing this, Diana would become filled with rage. The idea of her mother being gone, being taken away from her forever. It caused her power to swell, even higher than Goku. King Piccolo could feel this, and he became a bit agitated. Drum attempted to charge at them. Before Goku could even move, Diana would slice him in half with her sword, as the beast keeled over and died, as she looked at the king menacingly. "You will pay for what you have done. I vow this on the race of my people. You will pay." Diana would go charging at King Piccolo, the two of their fists connecting, causing a shockwave to echo throughout the area. Goku would join in as he too was fueled by his own anger. King Piccolo attempted to fight off against the two forces. However, both Goku and Diana were able to work together surprisingly well. Tien, watching on, couldn't help but be left in awe of how the two were able to compete and how they were able to perform with one another. They were in sync, almost as if they had been fighting like this their whole lives. At one point, Goku launched a Kamehameha wave, but the king had dodged. However, Diana, using her armbands, moved and deflected the attack to aim and hit him directly in the back of the head, stunning him just long enough as she tackled him in the spine, crushing and throwing him to the ground once more. King Piccolo would get back onto his feet as he attempted to grab her by the head and slam her to the ground. However, she wrapped her body around his arm and went in for a judo throw, slamming him on his back once again, while Goku, flipping into the air, would go diving in for a headbutt, knocking him directly in the stomach and causing him to cough up blood. The two fighters were able to combat King Piccolo effortlessly, their anger fueling themselves more and more time and time again. For King Piccolo, he couldn't take this anymore. How had it come to this point? The fact that he could be pushed by these two little insects, insignificant worms. No, he wasn't going to let this be the end of him. Not now. In a desperation attempt, he would cause a massive shockwave as he powered himself up to full strength. As he was able to move the two of them far enough away, he would go high above them into the sky as he charged a full-mouth beam attack. He was going to blow up the entire area if need be, and they could all go to hell as far as he was concerned. His mouth beam would come charging towards them as Goku countered with a Kamehameha wave. The two would enter into a beam struggle, the beams colliding in mid-air. Diana would stand behind Goku, pressing on his shoulders, the two of them standing and holding their ground as Goku gave everything he had into the beam. Diana didn't know anything about Ki Blast. She was never trained in that field of expertise. The only thing she could do for now was to try and aid Goku in any way that she could. As the two of them held firm, King Piccolo could feel that his beam was getting weaker, but still he poured everything he had into the attack. And for Goku, he could feel that he might have been at his own limit as well, as the two of them were just that evenly matched in terms of power. That was when Diana would have an idea. She would tell Goku to trust her. As he did so, she would jump onto his shoulders as she jumped in front of the Kamehameha wave. She would ride the beam, building on her momentum once again. In the midst of the beam struggle, she would jump off at the last moment as the Demon King had to slow down his beam in order to try to evade her attack, but to no avail. With a swift slash of her sword, the king would be cut across the chest, marking him with an X, giving him an immense amount of pain. As she yelled Goku once more to aim for the marking on his chest, Goku poured everything he had into his last Kamehameha wave. The final beam would go shooting directly towards the king, blasting him directly where the X had been marked by Diana's sword, finishing him off as an incinerated hole would have been blasted through the cavity of his chest. Diana would go crashing to the ground as Goku went to help her. As the two of them looked, Piccolo was floating in the air. He could feel his life slipping before him. He couldn't believe that he had been overpowered in such a way, by these two no less. Not seeing any other way out, he would look to leave his final mark. As he coughed up an egg, spitting it out into the forest below. Within it would be his offspring, the being known as Piccolo Jr., his last offspring, and the only one who could be used left to avenge him. As King Piccolo looked on, he would soon explode in the air, and with that, the evil king himself would be brought to an end. With his defeat now in the books, the two children would be left almost completely spent. They couldn't believe that they had been able to gain such a victory. But even more so, they were still too tired, and in some cases too somber to enjoy it. From what they had learned, it seemed as though the Dragon Balls had been destroyed. They could no longer use them, which meant that they couldn't bring anyone back to life. However, that might not have been the case. Before Tien could have a chance to reconvene with the two, as he was still recovering from his own wounds, Yajirobe arrived on the orders of Korin to pick the two children up and bring them back to the tower. After they had arrived, Korin would give them both Senzu beans and allow them to heal quickly, before telling them that because of their victory over the Demon King Piccolo, it was going to give them a special reward. A reward that would allow them to enter into a special area in the world, a place not many got to visit. Korn would tell the two of them of the one known as Kami, who resides in the skies above Korn's tower, although getting there would be rather difficult. Although, thankfully, they had a tool that could help them. He would explain that Goku's power pole had actually been a missing piece that they had been needing from a long time. It was designed to extend from the top of Korn's tower all the way up to the lookout. Of course, Goku suggested that they could just use Nimbus, which could also have been an easier way as well. Goku would call out the flying Nimbus, as the small cloud would ride up around. Both Diana and Goku would hop on board as they waved to Korn. Yajirobe only yelled in anger, asking why they didn't call that stupid cloud before, but Korn explained that that cloud only was allowed to ride with people who were pure of heart, and he had a feeling that Yajirobe would have just fell right through to his death. Now that he thought about it, Yajirobe didn't really care so much for flying clouds. Before long, the two would eventually arrive and make their way to the top of Korn Tower. From there, they would go even higher until they came to a floating like tower of its own. This must have been the lookout. As they arrived, they would both meet with Mr. Popo, who was the servant to the guardian known as Kami. Like in the original, Mr. Popo would still fight the two of them, testing them both to see if they were worthy of teachings from under the master. As they arrived, they would soon come face to face with Kami himself, the both of them being a bit worried when Kami was revealed, and the two of them mistaking him for being King Piccolo, as they attempted to try to fight him, only for Mr. Popo to stop the two of them, as he explained that this was not King Piccolo, but this was instead, in a way, the brother of King Piccolo, Kami, who served as the guardian of Earth. After they had had everything sorted out and explained, Kami was able to assure them that the Dragon Balls would be made to work again. With his help, they were able to get into contact with Bulma and the others, telling them that the Dragon Balls would be active once more, and that they could find them. After doing so, they were able to summon Shenron quickly, and they were able to wish back all those whom had been killed by King Piccolo and his minions, including Hippolyta as well as Master Roshi, who were welcomed back to the world of the living. As they had all been brought back though, everyone's main focus was trying to find where Goku and where Diana were. That was until they got another message, telling them that the two children had been chosen to train under Master Kami for the next 3 years. Under normal circumstances, Hippolyta wouldn't want to agree to such an arrangement. That was, unless the one training them was actually Kami. You see, even to the Amazons, they knew well enough that Kami was the guardian of Earth, someone who could be trusted. And if the guardian of Earth had actually looked favorably upon the Amazonians, so much so that he selected one of them to receive training from his tutelage, that was seen as a great honor, and Hippolyta was grateful that her daughter had been chosen for such a unique opportunity, as well as Roshi, who was proud of his student for being able to stand his own and fight against the Demon King Piccolo. With that, the two masters would agree, and they would hopefully wish their students good luck, hoping that they would get a chance to see them again. And they were assured that they would, at the next World Martial Arts Tournament. With that, Goku and Diana would be given the opportunity of a lifetime. Until the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, they were going to be receiving special training. But it wasn't just so they could perform well, but it was also to deal with a new threat that was on the horizon. That in the form of King Piccolo's final spawn, Piccolo Jr. For in just 3 years' time, the spawn would arrive fully grown. And when he did, at the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, there was a grudge that was going to be settled. This concludes What If Wonder Woman Was in Dragon Ball? Dragon Ball World's Strongest, Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Also, I am very pleased to announce that this Saturday we're going to be trying something a little new. I've been watching over the last couple of weeks to see which video was the absolute favorite of the new 5 stories we've been starting. And safe to say, Naruto Polaris has taken the #1 spot. Now, because Saturdays are a free time for me, and since I'm feeling a little generous, I have decided that for the foreseeable future, Naruto Polaris will also be featured on Saturday afternoons as well. This means not only will you get it on Monday to start your week, but you'll be getting it on Saturday to end your week as well. That means that tomorrow, you're going to be getting Naruto Polaris, What If Hanabi Hyuga Was Born First, Part 3. Followed by that, we'll be kicking off Part 4 on Monday. But stay tuned for that and everything else that we're going to be having for you here on the channel. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.